as far as the conflict is concerned, and we try to put it in perspective. Major General Sudhakar ji also has joined me on the broadcast. So thank you for speaking to me once again. You know, what I wanted to understand before we spoke then this was exactly, you know, one simple question that we are looking forward to find an answer of, that are we now looking at the crisis that's been brewing at this point of time? You know, is this, are we in the middle of the Third World War with the Russia also invading Ukraine? And, you know, when we look at these developments happening, there is of course a response that's coming from each side in retaliation to the attacks that are being now stemmed from one side. Are we in the middle of a Third World War?
Simran, different people will have different perception, but I must compliment, given your age and experience, you have raised a very relevant and important question. In response to that question, I would say, what is the benchmark to define the World War? Is it the First and Second World War, or it is something else? First and Second World War took place in 20th century. Now we are in the second decade, or the third decade rather, I would say, of the 21st century. The threat that was relevant and imminent during 20th century is no longer the same threat. Threats are totally different. You had a conventional threat in Second World War. Now there is a unconventional, there is a hybrid, there is a mix of hybrid and conventional threat, and there are non-military kind of, non-traditional kinds of threats emerging. Look at the drones. Look at the blackout of the electromagnetic spectrum that I spoke about 7th October by the non-state actors. Look at the non-state actor. Anyway, to respond to your question, my take, Simran, the answer is yes. This is the new normal of a modern warfare. Call it by any name, Third World War, or no World War, or a World War, or the way it is manifesting. This is, as per me, is the Third World War. What else? What more do you require? You have not two nations fighting. It's a war of proxies. Ukraine is not the, actually, unfortunately, it has become a victim. Why virtue of the poor leadership quality? I mean, being a military man, I have no authority to cast aspersion, but I would say the leadership in Ukraine is not pragmatic in its approach. Any meaningful, substantive and well-meaning leader in Ukraine would have taken a different course of action. Okay, so there are no two stakeholders. There are multiple stakeholders. There are 32 of NATO. One is Russia. 32 countries are fighting against Russia. Russia is being willy-nilly supported by China, North Korea. Russia is falling short of, there is an ingredient called as nitrocellulose. Nitrocellulose is such an ingredient, it is used for making paint and varnish. It's a dual use kind of ingredient. And the same ingredient is used for making rocket propellant.
Major General, I'll request you to give me a second to, put this forward as well. You know, because you have said, in your opinion, it is very strongly ascertained that we are, in fact, in the new normal of watching this Third World War being broken out. But what is then expected of the world leaders? You know, how in this category, in this entire diaspora of the new normal, what is expected of the world leaders to be acting on immediately at this point of time? Because these are the things, these are the developments which have been, expected, sort of, given the kind of retaliations and small breakouts regionally we have been looking at. This is something that we anticipated if, it wasn't contained earlier. So how the world leaders are expected to, act at this point of time, and also because you're watching the entire chronology of the events very closely, I believe you are the right person to ask this as well. If at all the kind of behavior and the kind of attitude that should be done is being demonstrated at this point of time.
Compliments again. You have very boldly opened up and asked a very relevant question, which every Indian, not Indian, every citizen in the world should be asking. In my opinion, the time has come. You need a leader like Narendra Modi. Upfront, straight, catch the bull by its horn. By no means am I suggesting that India should step in. into bringing peace to this region or any other conflict. You require a person who's straightforward, honest, truthful, who's got a high level of credibility, who's heard by East, West, and North, South to stand up and bring the conflicts to an end. You require one person, you don't require thousands of leaders. You require a person, leadership like Narendra Modi. That is my conviction. I'm saying as a military man, I'm conscious of the fact I'm not supposed to make a statement like this. We are supposed to be apolitical. I am replying to your question. Number two, I would say, nothing is impossible. This conflict, let me tell you, Simran, we are heading, I have already in your previous panel discussion, I have said we are heading for nothing less than disaster. Nothing will be left. This is such a escalatory matrix. Iran, fortunately, you must understand, since you are showing a lot of interest in geopolitics, there is a dynamics which is actually helping Iran to a large extent. What is the dynamic? Lack of geographical contiguity with a force inimical where the conflict is going on. It is 1800 kilometers away from Israel, the battlefield. So whatever attack they have to do, less for the non-state actors, they have to do by standoff means, either by missiles, by ICBMs, or by cruise missiles, or by Air Force. They do not have boots on ground to go into Israel. They have only the non-state actors. This is a saving grace as far as Iran is concerned. But the fact is, the same Iran, once upon a time, historically, if you look back, I'm sure Himanshu ji will bear me out. He is a well-read, very senior journalist. Once upon a time, Ottoman Empire, Iran used to be a great superpower in the world order. They are still living in the historical legacy. They want to say. They don't realize that the times have changed. So times are changing. We need to actually put our good, effective leader. One man will make the difference. One person in the world order. And that person, as per me, I'm convinced it is none other than Narendra Modi. So what does he do? Does he go around making peacemaking talks? No. It is by direct one-on-one engagement, like the way he spoke to Netanyahu yesterday. These are very substantive, subtle, meaningful initiatives which have potential to bring huge, breakout of conflict to a ceasefire. I personally feel, I have seen, I am a NLP, some people say I am an expert, but I have seen the leadership quality and this leader that he has gone through from childhood till now. People don't know much about. Our Indians don't know, unfortunately, about a prime minister. He's the only man who can bring peace in the world order. Nobody else. Last show I told you, it is America who's good. America has to be brought onto a logical, rational, across the table dialogue to bring some sense and sanity that whatever they are doing in Middle East, this same thing will ruin their country. It's already destroying American society. They don't realize whatever they are doing in Central Europe is destroying American. Defense industry alone will not sustain a superpower. Today in the news, you are not covering, yuan has overtaken dollar. I don't know whether it is true or false. The de-dollarization is making waves in a significant way. So the superpower has to behave in a responsible manner, extend its responsibility in a substantive manner. Only then a superpower will become a superpower. It's not the 21st century, is not the century for double talk. It is a century for sensible, rational, rules-based perception and engagement with the stakeholder towards improvement of quality of life, livelihood, and our ecosystem that is supporting us. Otherwise, we are heading for...
Major General, I believe you have made this very measured comment in your capacity of being a voter, a citizen as well. But also, as you have suggested, that, this is in fact the time where we are looking of having a leader like Narendra Modi, in the time of crisis. But do you think the world, in fact, at this point of time, also looks at India in the same manner when we're talking about this conflict significantly? Is a lot of expectation also being given on India as per playing their part of being a peacemaker, or just India is in fact extending what it should be as a part of the nations where they are in fact advocating for dialogue and peace rather than, adding more fuel to the fire?
Simran, again, makes me believe that you are being prompted with this question by somebody who's watching the show. Anyway, never mind. It's very stimulating. I would say, who else? There are 193 countries, if I respect my memory, in the United Nations, in this planet. You just go from A to Z. Just don't look deeper into every country. You just look at the whatever little know-how you have about the leaders today and the status of the country. Which country in the world is in a position that India is today? Talk about the economy, talk about the military might, talk about the soft power, talk about the most important in terms of economy is the consumer base. Our own citizens, they don't know. We have the largest youth bulge, 65% between 50 to 65 years. And amongst that, in that youth bulge, you have got almost more than 500 million consumer base who's spending $12 and more. This is by an international IMF study report by the World Bank itself. China has got 700 something, around close to 800. As the time is growing, by 2030, India would be getting closer to overtake China. Look at everyone is looking at India. So therefore, there are no fears. India doesn't have to fear or be apprehensive or afraid of anything. No matter what you decide, as long as it's for the national interest of India, as long as it is for one earth, one family, and what do you say that? One future, that motto which we have coined for the G20, as long as we are looking at the world as one family, I think there is no holds barred. Narendra Modi and his team should go bash out. There is no country in the world, Simran, which can bring about some sense and rationality to the present rule-based order, which is least experienced by people. We always expected 21st century will bring about some semblance of rules-based order. It is happening just the opposite. I hope I have answered your question. You're asking question like a good student in geopolitics. I hope to an extent I may not have satisfied you. That's it.
We still have a lot to learn, in fact, from learned and scholars like you. But in fact, my curiosity is coming from the point of time where worry is in fact also brewing in the Indian diaspora. In fact, when we are watching the developments closely happening in the Middle East, I'll request you both to
9 million diasporas in the Middle East. 9 million is the official figure. I have been there in Middle East myself as a president of a multinational company. The figure is touching 13 million, unofficial figure. 9 million Indian diaspora.
Certainly.
Okay, so it's a big number.
That what we are, of course, putting in focus. I'll request you both to kindly stay on with me on the broadcast while I also get more visuals of what's happening in the Middle East at this point of time and break it down for the interest of viewers how exactly this is